Hi, I'm Miss Paula from Sunshine House, and I'm glad you've come today to read our monthly pre-K book, The Mitten. I like this special anniversary edition because it has a pretty shiny cover. And on the cover, put on my glasses so I could see, look at the animals here. Of course, the biggest one here we can see is the bear. And it's got, that looks like a fox or a dog. In here, it looks like the wise old owl. You can tell that by his eyes, and then he has that special feathers coming down around his nose there. And look at this little guy on the nose of the bear. Looks like a mouse. Ooh, this is a badger, and a hedgehog, and a rabbit. I don't know what this little animal here is. And on the outside it looks like kind of like a sweater there. What could they all be doing inside of a sweater? That doesn't make sense. Well, let's find out. Open to the first page. Not the red one, but the next one. It says The Mitten, a Ukrainian folktale adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. So Ukrainian folktale. A folktale is a story that's been handed down from many generations. Maybe their mom or dad tell their son or their daughter, and they tell their children. And so it wasn't really written down for a long time. But now Jan Brett has come and she's written the words to it so that we could have it in a book so we could all see it. And it also says it's illustrated by her. Illustrations are pictures, so that means that she drew all the pictures. Turn to the next page. And this one has some explanation from Jan Brett about her writing this book. And here's the first page of our story. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as the snow. I really like these books. It's an interesting and clever way to write these. On this side here, there's one little frame of picture that tells you what happened before. Looks like some lady is spinning some yarn. Here's the boy who wants the mitten. And then the next picture over here tells us what's going to happen on the next page of the story. And I see the woman now is pulling some yarn out of a ball. Let's start right here. When we read, we start on the left side, and we look at all the words and read them along to the right. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. Now, her name is Baba, and that is a name for grandma. I don't think her name is really Baba. But it's like you see Gaga, some people call her Nana or Nona. Her name is Baba. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them. Grandmas are like that, aren't they? They'll just do anything you want them to when they can. After she finished, she said, when you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens. So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his mittens dropped in the snow, and it was left behind. Uh-oh. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. Here's a little mitten right here. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Next, the hedgehog came snuffling along. Do you know what snuffling is? It's kind of breathing in and out of your nose so that you can hear a sound. Kind of like that, kind of like dog snuffle, right? Well, this hedgehog was snuffling too. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. Do you see these prickles here? Those are things that could poke them, so they didn't want to argue with him. They just let him come in. Next page. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Do you know what talons are? You see right here on the edge, on the end of his feet, are talons. Oh. Do you sometimes have trouble turning the page? I do. Up through the snow appeared a badger. Now, we don't see badgers where we live, but I think they're probably on the East Coast is where they have badgers. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. How many animals is that? The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and now the badger. 5. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Do you know what wafting means? A waft of warm steam. Waft is when something kind of light bounces on an airstream, so it was wafting. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. So how many is that now? Let's see. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, the badger, and now the fox. 6. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? Not me. The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged to many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. There she is. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Ka-choo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky, and it scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. You see there's his mitten, and then there's this giant mitten. What do you think happened? Well, that's the one that all the animals were stretched in, and it just got huge. And this is really neat. How they had at the end, at the book, they have the shape of the mitten right around Baba and Nicky. Thank you for joining me to read this book. You know, whenever you read a book, a special spot in your brain lights up, and it makes you smarter for tomorrow. So keep reading, and see you later.